G'day, Scotty from RV Solutions. Just going to do a little bit of a review of the caravan we've just taken away. So this is a Wonderland XTR 21.6, family bunk van. We've used a few of these now. This is probably the third one of these we've used. Probably the first one in this configuration. I'm just going to run you through maybe some of the highlights that we found are really good and some of the things we might change in the next one that we get as well. So starting on the outside, we use the level riders as well. These are the level ones. The 4-ton towing. This caravan has got an ATM of 4,400 kilos. We weren't loaded up anywhere near that. We were loaded up with 3.3. We didn't really need to carry much more than that. So we don't fill our water tanks up because most people stay in the caravan park. We don't overpack, and the things that we pack are generally quite light. So we'll go out of our way to find really light tables and chairs and outside furniture. So the furniture for a family of 5 is just over 5 kilos, including the table. We pack generally quite light. So, but the level riders made quite a big difference. I've got a fairly well set up 200 series cruiser. I've got keen off-road racing suspension. I've got DVM upgrade. I've got just about everything on. You still 100% need to look at weight distribution. I've got airbags as well. They do absolutely nothing for towing. The weight distribution will make the biggest difference. Even just the settings that we had on there, on the way to Bremer Bay and on the way back, were 2 different ones as well, and made such a huge difference again. Other things we liked as well. This has got the D045 coupling. We found this one particularly easy to hook onto as well, as opposed to a standard coupling. D035 works exactly the same, just slightly lighter weight. Super heavy duty chains as well. Everything in the front was pretty good. Dual gas bottles, diesel tank, a diesel heater. One thing we'd probably go away from the next time, we wouldn't use a diesel heater, we'd use a gas heater instead. Reason being, it's one less tank you've got to carry. And 2, your gas bottles, you've got plenty of gas capacity as it is. I mean, most people refresh their gas bottles in their caravan once, maybe twice a year tops. You're already carrying a lot of gas, there's no reason to reduce yet another fuel. It's just another thing you've got to carry. Coming to the front as well, we didn't order with this line-out kitchen. We'll try something a little bit different. So we weren't taking a separate fridge with us, basically because it was a fairly short trip and the fridge inside the van is already quite big. We decided to try a Weber on the fridge side. Worked really, really well. The fact that it added it from the van was good too. There's no sort of fat especially back up against it. Actually, Weber itself is the first time I've used one. I don't generally grill a lot, so we had the actual hot plate on instead. I found it worked pretty well. That's all I cooked on. I didn't do any cooking inside at all. Most people I know prefer to cook outside. Again, you know you can't always do it, but it's handy when you can. Sometimes there's just too many flies, there's too much rain, there's too much wind, there's too much sand, too much anything. Sometimes you just need to cook inside as well. But when you don't, this is brilliant. Okay? What we're going to order on the next one though, we're going to order the K4 kitchen with a slide out, which actually has the spot for the Weber to go into specifically as well. That'll work quite well. The only thing when you do order slide out kitchen as well is you do lose a fair bit of the tunnel boot space. So the tunnel boot space in here is quite generous. There's enough room for probably 3 of me in there. Fishing rods, long stuff, it's all galvanized, so jockey wheel, all the stuff that could be damaging or that's sort of heavy duty, hoses, things that can smell, it all goes in there. It's all sealed and all nice and outlined. There's lights in there as well, fancy lights all the way through. We found that super handy. One thing I touched on though is on the 19.6 that we took away last time to Nigaloo. So very much the same van, just slightly shorter. It's got the east-west bed as opposed to the north-south. What it meant is you actually got a second full tunnel boot. I found that a lot more handy than the space under the bed. So when you lift up the bed, you've still got a lot of storage. However, I found that having it as a tunnel boot was a lot easier to use, especially for long stuff. Getting stuff in and out from under the bed was quite a pain in the ass. Getting from in and out the tunnel was quite easy. I'm just lazy and I like things easy. So. Next thing to touch on as well is we went for the bug lights. So they switch between white and bug. So the white lights are quite bright, the bug lights are fairly decent as well. What we find on most caravans is the external lights, and they're a bug, they aren't bright enough, they're quite dim. Whereas these ones, there's 3 of them, and that was more than enough light for outside. In fact, it's almost too much. We only had 2 on. The normal annex lights are just a little bit dim we find. Moving on as well, so this one had the awesome trapper door. Fairly solid. Did take a little bit of getting used to how you open and close it as well. So this one you basically got to do almost a 2-way action before it opens properly. It does work really well. It just took a little bit getting used to it. Once you have an activator, it's quite good. They're also really heavier shut as well. Like the Kamek doors are quite good and they're very soft closed, but I just find this one with all its just seems a lot more substantial. If somebody was trying to get into it, you feel that this might be a little more of a deterrent than a custom style door. So the airbag suspension was really good too. The caravan park around was fairly level, so we didn't need to use it a lot, but it was quite handy being able to lower one side of the van and put the other up. What we find as well is we put all 4 legs down, which have fairly pre-adjusted so they're all level. We'll just let the legs swing down, and instead of having to wind them up and down, we'll just lower the airbags down onto them so they're nice and firm. We don't have to use the winder at all. The idea of it as well is you have to set it down to the lower setting. So lowering it down also means that step is quite low too. So having the step low, it just means you're not grinding in and out of the van. And that's often the biggest complaint with off-road caravans is, yeah, they've got great clearance, but they're also quite a mountain to jump into. It doesn't sound cool, but if you're doing that flat out for 2, 3, 4 months on the road, you're going to get really big thighs or you're going to get sick of it. This van comes standard with jerrycan holders. Unless I have a specific use for it, I get diesel heater, I probably don't take jerrycans. I normally get around 600 kilometres range out of cruiser, fully loaded up with the van. 600 kilometres is enough to get me between plenty of servos. There's not that many places where I've been or we would like to go to that I'm going to need more than 600 kilometres. I almost never take a jerrycan. One of the reasons I don't like loading up the back too, I mean this has 2 jerrycans and you can go 2 spares as well. I'm not a supporter of a lot of weight in the back of caravans. Most people see it as a bumper in a place just to load things. What people have to understand as well is this bumper's doing this, and you can probably see the back of the van is flexing. Caravans are made to flex naturally. When you add more weight to the back of caravans, you're increasing that flex, and it's very, very common for us to see bent chassis and broken window sills and all sorts of things just from too much flex in caravans. I don't recommend putting any more weight on the rear bumper than what you actually need. If you've got something that you need, it might be a boat trailer, it might be your outboard, it might be something you're actually going to use, it's fine. But if you're not going to use it, don't take it. I never take 2 spares. I know most people swear by having 2 spares. I virtually never have to take a tyre off to fix it up, plug it on there. One thing I will recommend though, especially doing corrugated roads, is tyre pressure monitors as well. If you've got a slow leak and you don't pick it up on a tandem axle or really wanky suspension like this, you're not even going to feel it. A slow leak, getting down to low tyre pressures is going to cause you to shred a tyre, which you can't plug or do anything with. If you pick it up before it gets too low, then you can fix it without having to take the tyre off and plug it in. You can have 6 or 7 plugs in the hole to get in trouble if you need to. So again, keep the rear bumper light unless you've got things you genuinely need to take over there. So it's something that worked out really well on the Wonderlands. They haven't been doing it that long, but yeah, I quite like the design of it. So instead of having separate water fillers and a separate water inlet, they've run everything through the mains water inlet. So plug your hose on and everything just runs through the mains pressure. This is your 3 separate tanks in here. Each time you want to fill a tank, you just turn the tap on to that particular tank and it starts to fill that tank. Then you can do the next one and so forth. Just a really clever little system. Only 1 hose instead of 2. Just worked out a lot better. Same with the draining of the grey water tank as well. The caravan park we were in, we basically didn't hook up the silage water. We basically left it open. So I left the tank closed and just let it build up. Once we left the park, we just let it drain on the road. It was fine. Just want to touch a little bit on the electrical system. Found this to be a bit of a standout in these particular vans as well. So when Wonderland do it, they have a lot of effort goes into the system. You can see they've really sat down and thought about it with the supplies. So this is mostly a RedArc and a lithium lab system. And for a RedArc charger, big 3000 watt RedArc converter and a 450 amp lithium lab battery. This setup is quite good. It's also got the BC-DC charger as well. So when we're driving from the car, it's getting a proper charge from the car. So without a BC-DC charger or DC-DC, they don't charge the caravan properly from the car. The voltage drop through your Anderson plug, it's too high to actually do much to the caravan battery at all, especially not when you're trying to charge a behemoth battery like a 450 ampere. As you can see, this system, it's super neat. Like, they've really put a lot of thought and a lot of effort into it. I harp on electrical systems in caravans quite a lot, but it's the lifeblood of the caravan. If this is done sort of half-assed and not properly, you will notice it when you go to use it. Not only that, aesthetics-wise as well, like, it's nice and neat, everything's away. There's not that many that look this neat. All the quality of the componentry as well, and the lithium lab batteries are about as good as they get. Or the battery management system and the casing, that's all made in Perth. The cells are Chinese, the same as everything else. But yeah, all your RedArc stuff's really good quality too. As far as a management system, it's super easy to work on. If there's been any dramas, the guys from RedArc are really good too. I'll be honest, it has taken us a little bit of learning They're probably a little bit more complex than some of the other systems we've used, but now we've got our heads around it, they're brilliant, and RedArc themselves were brilliant to deal with on the phone too. One thing we like to this size as well, so at the 21'6", this bedroom, this table area in the kitchen is pretty much the same size as the 19'6". We found that this size table actually worked quite well. In our family, we rarely all sit at the dinner table and have dinner together. The kids eat different times than the adults. Our kids are 1, 3 and 6. They're having dinner around 5:30. I'm normally about 3 hours after that. This size was plenty for 3 kids. It was actually absolutely heaps. When we did want to sit with them, I sort of sat on the end of the bed, which was also fine. But really, it was just the kids for breakfast and for dinner. They sat down and ate in here. The actual size was good. The fact that you can slide the table around nice and easy as well. And if you wanted to, when the kids get a bit older and they want to bring a friend along, I can put this table down into a bed as well. I can't really see me using it for a fair while yet because my kids are quite young, but I'm sure some will have a use for it. The angled kitchen as well, I found super helpful. So, I don't know if it just appears a lot bigger, but you felt that you just had a little bit more room to put stuff. Because we cooked outside flat out all the time as well, we didn't actually even lift up the lid of the stove. It stayed closed the whole time. That basically meant that we had area to put things down. Think of these black sinks. They look amazing, nice big size, easy to wash, but there's no drainer. So we found just putting a tea towel in here and using it as a drainer, that worked actually fine, because we never usually needed to lift the stove up. So if you're not using the stove, you've actually got quite a decent sized kitchen in here as well. Again, if you're cooking something massive, you have got the room out there, but not that we do that sort of thing in a caravan anyway. We're not often making a Sunday roast or anything else. We've opted not to go for a full oven, mostly because you get the pot drawer too, which I found the pot drawer super handy. I have done longer trips before where I've been travelling around for 7 or 8 months. I probably would use an oven. If I'm on a long trip like that, I probably would use an oven. The reason I'd use it is because you do occasionally like a Sunday roast or to bake things or anything else when my wife bakes flat out at home. Never when we're holidaying because we've only got 2 or 3 weeks at a time. But if I was doing a long trip, yes, I would definitely consider an oven. Because you can obviously still use that oven for storage of your pots too. The pots we found really good, the ones from Kamek, they're all the square ones. You can get 4 little pots all stacked into each other. They were mint, so we had 4 pots the size of one. Again, it's all about space saving and weight saving too. So this one we've optioned a 3-way fridge. The reason we've gone for a 3-way fridge over a 2-way fridge, I know everybody swears compressor fridges is the only way to go. We've done a lot of travel in the heat. We've done Expound for Christmas time, plenty of times where it's 47 degrees in the shade and it's plenty hot. I've still never been let down by a gas fridge. In the past, we used to get a lot of vans in, a lot of people want to change their fridges out, but I mean that's been 10-15 years ago. Now we change out a gas fridge for a compressor fridge probably 2-3 times a year. It's just not something that people do a lot anymore. It's mostly because the gas fridges now are a little bit better than what they used to be, and they're mostly installed a lot better. They tend to get rid of a lot of the heat at the back of them. Compressor fridge is better than a gas fridge in most ways except for the power it uses. For a compressor fridge, especially a decent size like a 220 litre one like this, you need an average of sort of 200 plus watts of solar just to run that fridge. Not all caravans you've got the space on the roof for lots and lots of solar. This one is 800 watts and our next one will probably be closer to 1200 watts. However, I still don't want to use all of that for a fridge if I don't have to. There's cloudy days where it's still hot and you still use air conditioning. Cloudy days you can have 1200 watts of solar, but you're going to be getting a substantial amount less than that. You can go down as low as 10% on a real cloudy day. If it's still humid, you still want your aircon on. So therefore you don't want to be drawing anything off that battery, you don't need to. Gas in a caravan, again, most people refresh their gas bottles once or twice a year. Gas is super efficient, it's quite cheap, and as I say, it's not hard to get. You can get it just about anywhere. So I tend to stick with gas for that, I tend to stick with gas for the heater, and I tend to stick with gas for the hot water system as well. Touching on the hot water system, we've got the instantaneous one and this one. I probably wouldn't option the instantaneous again, just my personal preference. I'm sure people have had plenty of good success with them. I found that it cycled through, it was very pressure dependent, so I did find it went hot, cold quite a bit. My personal preference would probably be the Swift 28 litre hot water system. We've used that 2 or 3 times now in different vans and we haven't run out of water yet, and we're a family of 5. In saying that, we don't all shower consecutively one after the other either. You know what I mean? The kids are going to bed at a different time to we are. It's a little bit staggered anyway. The other reason that I like the storage system and the hot water system is because it has a sacrificial anode. So if you're going to places like Coral Bay or anywhere that's got very, very harsh groundwater, they destroy hot water systems quite quickly. If you've got a sacrificial anode, you've got a form of protection. On the instantaneous tanks, you don't have any form of protection. So the tank's stainless itself, it will last fine, but you need to flush that with good water as soon as you leave that type of area. And if you're travelling through the northwest, that's not always easy. If you have a sacrificial anode, it's quite easy just to pull it out, put a new one in, and your protection's done. So that's, for personally as a maintenance issue, I find they're a lot safer to use, especially if you're doing long-term trips and going to northwest places, which we like to do a lot. So we've talked about this bedroom area before and other layouts we've done. This is probably the third time we've had this style of layout. It is way better than anything we've used before. So instead of having the solid wall here, we've got the concertina. What it means is you've got a big open area here. So typically when I'm showering or anyone's showering, we won't close this concertina door at all. We'll just close this one. Because kids aren't normally in bed when we're showering, for us typically. What it means is you've just got an actual proper sized area that you can actually get changed in. You're not sort of bumping your ass on the walls or anything else. Same with this solid wall here, when you're putting the kids to bed, you're not bumping your ass on the wall, you're not sort of shuffling down like this. The kids aren't constantly knocking into it. You just have a much more open area. So you haven't got any more space, but it feels a lot more usable. The other thing we'll probably change on the next one, front loader washing machine's really good. We've used it a few times, it's been great. However, I'd probably delete that next time and go the wall mount. So what it means is you'll get another 3 drawers there, or 3 shelves. Our next trip is going to be 4 or 5 weeks long, and we're going to want as much kit storage as we can. So the washing machine go up into a wall mount, and we'll lose slightly less cabinetry here. It's not fussy for us. We don't have shitloads of creams and stuff that you put on your face there. Maybe my wife does, but yeah, we don't actually need that much space there. A washing machine there is going to be quite handy, and we definitely need the space for the kids' clothes. They go for about 10 changes a day. So the main difference between the 19'6" and the 21'6" is this bedroom area here. So you can see we've got a full-size north-south bed, whereas in the other one you've got the east-west. I didn't actually mind the east-west. When we first took the 19'6" away, we thought we were going to hate it, climbing over each other. It was actually pretty good. The bed went full length, so you can climb around each other rather than over each other too. I'm not particularly tall, neither is my wife, so if you're taller it might be a bit different. The north-south was probably better. Doing a longer trip, I suppose maybe I prefer this. However, the trade-off is you don't get that second tunnel boot on the 21'6" where you're doing the 19'6". The tunnel boot is super handy. I used it for storage flat out. For me, not being that tall, it's a worthwhile compromise having the east-west bed. The next one I would go would probably be the 19'6". And again, we'll do it for the extra storage and probably about 50-60 kilos less weight, which doesn't sound like a lot, but with our cruiser we can take 3.5, we're pretty well on the limit. So we don't want to use anything that we don't need to. So just my personal preference is probably 19'6". Again, if you're taller, you're probably going to want the 21'6".